Hello, EnderSword here again, this time with a Silver League game. This one was posted up on TeamLiquid.net strategy forums by dasbif, our Zerg player here on the right-hand side of Metalopolis. He pointed this out as an example where he thinks he did a lot of things right in this game. He felt like he was hitting his injects all the time, macroing up pretty well, moving his army pretty well, and so on. So he basically picked a game where he felt he was doing pretty good and still wanted to see what areas could be improved on, even in a game where he actually executed very well. And I think that's an excellent way for people out there to be going about it. Don't just look at games that you lost. It's always good to look at things where you did do something wrong and spot what it is. But also do this. Look at games that you've actually won, that you're actually felt that you performed really well, and then look at what can I do even better than that? What was I still missing when I was actually winning? And I think that is a great way for him to go about it. So the three things that we're going to be looking at in this game, which is against Goliath, our Terran player up here on the top, are number one, take the map, bro. Tons of people get the idea that yes, as Zerg, you have to take 2, 3, 4 bases, but they are often very hesitant in really doing this, really actually taking the map. Their money will start to skyrocket. They really have full control over what's going on, but they're still very hesitant to just really aggressively expand the way that you see a very good Zerg player do, and that can often hold you back. Second thing we're going to look at, somewhat related, spend your cash even when it seems completely excessive to be spending your cash. There's a lot of people that will feel that oh, I don't need this many of that. I don't need that many production facilities. I don't need to put down another hatchery. This is fine. I don't need to tech up more. I don't need to put down these upgrades. Something like that. They hit a point that they're comfortable with, whether it's 3 or 4 hatcheries, 6 raxes, 9 gateways, something like that, and they kind of start to feel anything beyond that is excessive, or it's too many, or it's silly. I will never need that many. Make it anyway. If you've actually got your money skyrocketing up like that, make it, and you'll be surprised at how many times you actually do end up getting use out of it. So we'll look at that throughout the course of this game. And the third point, really quickly, is don't let things slip when you're distracted, and that's what we're about to see here. So we've got the Zerg player so far who's been doing pretty good, making sure that he wasn't supply blocked, making sure that he got his hatchery down on time, everything like that. But now we see, oh, there's a bunker going up, and I've got to stop this marine, and I've got to do this, and I've got to get a couple lings out and stuff, but your spawning pool's done. Why aren't we making queens? We should be making queens at both of these hatcheries. Should we not be probably taking a gas at this point? Should we maybe be getting, well, we can't get speed because there's no gas. Is there anything else that I want to do? Don't I want to put an Evo chamber down? Maybe I want to get a spine crawler down to just completely hold off this type of aggression. So instead, what we get is a moment where we're really distracted, everything stops getting made, and by the time we kind of come back into our senses, well, now I'm supply blocked. Now I want to make these queens, but I can't. I'm supply blocked and they're not actually building. I should have been making an overlord during that. I wanted to put down one gas about a minute or two ago, but now I have to make both of them at the same time. And then here's my evolution chamber that I probably also wanted to make 2 or 3 minutes ago. So just don't let yourself get distracted by things like that. Obviously, you have to deal with it. It's going to be very important if you actually got that bunker up and got a few things in it. But don't let it make you lose the plot on what you're doing, because that was essentially a failed bunker rush. That didn't work. But because you allowed yourself to get distracted, it kind of did work. The Zerg player is still much farther ahead than the Terran. However, part of the reason he is farther ahead than the Terran is because the Terran did the exact same thing. He just stopped building anything at home. He let his minerals go up to 900. He didn't follow up with this sort of thing. So had he kept going while the Zerg was distracted, he could be in a better position. And in this case, they both got distracted, they both didn't move forward, and they ended up being both very delayed on what they were doing. So we've got the Zerg player did kind of adequately catch up on what he's trying to do, again making sure that he's not getting supply blocked or anything here. He should probably have another Overlord coming out soon. He's going right up to layer tech before getting any speed on the Zerglings or anything like that. We've got the Evo chamber down, but we're starting to feel the crunch of the fact that we didn't get this gas out sooner. So there's just not enough money. Just now there's enough money to get the speed. So he wanted to tack up, wanted to go there, wanted to do some things, but just because of being put behind on that, didn't really have that. I had that little sign up the entire time. So it does just completely throw you off. I do like this, you know, that you've kind of set him back by holding off that rush. So great, go definitely take your expansion around, put that down around 7:30, 7 minutes into the game. That's pretty good. It would be nice to have that speed done at this point. If the speed was actually done, he probably could have outright stopped this expansion from ever actually landing here. There's not a lot of troops here. This handful of lings plus this handful of lings probably could have prevented that bunker from going up, prevented that from landing, or at least delayed it for a decent period of time. So it is a shame that that was actually pushed back. But everything's kind of back on track. He's obviously got the supply lead going into a spire. We're starting to see, again, money piling up a little bit. It's all right to stockpile a bit as a Zerg if you're going towards a particular tack. Oftentimes people will say build a spire and they want to make sure they have enough money to make 5 or 6 mutas right away as soon as that thing's done. So sometimes you want to pool to some extent, but you definitely don't want to be pooling to 800, 600, things like that before you actually need it. Given that gas is going to be a limitation, that since he is going for the Spire Tech here, it would be nice to get these two geysers up and running. That seems to be in higher demand than the minerals, or at least will be in the near future here. It's also a good time to be getting ahead, as he did in some of the Overlord production, but he did kind of do that thing where you make a really big clump of them and an unnecessarily large amount. He's 50 supply ahead. Making 2 or 3 of those probably would be sufficient and get more units out. Again, we've got tons of money going on here, but there's a lot of larvae sitting down on the ground. I love that they added this here. We've got 12 larvae actually sitting around, but we've got 900 minerals. There's really no excuse for that. Turn them into lings, turn them into roaches, something like that, especially where you're going banelings. There's no reason not to have more lings than this. You've got so far ahead in the early game, it would be a shame if just a bad timing push right now was able to take out just a few handful of mutas and a handful of lings, and it could have easily happened. The Terran player didn't really militarize all that much, or has been kind of slacking there, but on the other hand, our Zerg player doesn't know that. He has absolutely no scouting information on what's going on. He doesn't know how big the army is, doesn't even know there's a bunker there, doesn't know anything about this. So really he's being a little bit risky in how hard he teched up without actually backing it up with some units. We do get another hatchery going down, which is certainly a good idea when we do have that much money pooling up. However, he shouldn't have been hesitant to just take other bases, as opposed to making a macro hatch. Any reason you didn't just take the gold? Any reason not to just take this thing down here? The other thing that was just done is the mutas came out onto the map. The Terran player isn't really scouting or anything either, so he didn't actually know they were out there until dasbif attacked him way down here in a place that didn't make any difference. He could have sent 3 lings down to kill that Marine, but instead he tipped his hand, let him know, oh, I've got a lot of mutas, and all of a sudden these turrets are going up, and now he can't really harass with that. He can't pick off that sensor tower, which is the real thing stopping him from doing muta harass in this area. Turrets kind of go up all over the place. Now we've got Vikings out on the map as opposed to as opposed to more medevacs getting out on the map. So he's kind of countering against the idea of the fact that the mutas are out there. So you don't want to be tipping people off to the fact that you're doing that. Now here again, we've just got money skyrocketing to the point that he's really got to do something about it. There's a lot of larvae still left on the ground. 27 larvae on the ground. That has to just instantly be turned into an army. And given the imbalance of your resources, you kind of want to be looking at what can I make, what can I tech to or do that actually complements what I'm doing here. Roaches would actually make a fair bit of sense a moment ago when you had like 2,500 minerals, but 500-600 gas. That's about the right proportion that you'd want to be getting, say, roaches in. It would allow you to spend it fairly efficiently, given that you can't put all of this into mutas. Alternatively, you could just get a lot of more hatcheries on the ground and just pump lings. The other thing to do at this point, even though he feels that he's this far ahead, don't take your foot off the gas. That is a lot of Marines that are coming out here. If they get into a good position, they can certainly do a lot of damage. If these actually had upgrades that you would see at a higher level, then this would be doing a lot more. This would be a much bigger problem to our Zerg player right now. It actually could have completely stemmed most of that off. So you want to never really take your foot off the gas and allow your minerals to just start being at 4,000, 5,000, and so on. Obviously, he is winning this game at this point, and there's really nothing he can do about it. And he did completely outplay Goliath here. He was just behind the entire game. Even without that bunker rush fail, Goliath just didn't have the same level of macro that dasbif did have. It certainly was a fair bit superior to what he's doing. It's great for that level, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement there. So the areas that we're kind of teched up to, he went into infestors. Well, that's gas heavy on top of something that was already gas heavy that we were doing. Got the banelings down that are gas heavy as well. So if you want it to be doing that, you really definitely need to be taking other bases, getting more gas online. If he was going to be adding a tech to that composition, it did make a bit more sense to add in, say, roaches to it. With this much money as well, given that he's got 78 drones on 3 bases, there's also no harm in just pulling a handful of drones off and just making a spine crawler wall before that big engagement, before that big attack. Just make sure that even if you completely lost that attack, you misread the situation, and they come to counter push, well, there's no reason not to have this money spent on a big wall of defense that you can eventually be pushing forward. The creep spread there is also something that kind of fell off once you started to get going here. It certainly started off fairly decently. It's a good idea, obviously, to have these bases connected, but at this point, the creep could have been pushed basically to the front of the base, and really should be at 16 minutes in the game. You should really be controlling your entire half of the map and really pushing onto theirs, forcing them to actually scan to try and get away from themselves. Gives you a lot of information on what's going on, as well as that mobility. So again, just to kind of review those points, actually take the map. Don't just get content with the fact that you're ahead and that your economy is ahead. Take everything, so that if you get surprised with a drop up here, you've literally got 3 other bases, and you've got so much room and time left before he could possibly kill everything, that even if he dropped here and took out your spire, you could literally rebuild it down here in the time that it took to actually clear everything out and get there. So kind of work that in. Just take so much that they don't even know where to begin in trying to attack you, and just make sure that your production is available to just spend that money, spend the money in absolute waves that seem unstoppable. The next thing, obviously, related to that, spending. I won't harp on that too much anymore. And obviously, don't let things slip when you are distracted. It did happen in the early game here. Did put him not behind the other player, but certainly well behind where he was going to be. And the fact that he was kind of knocked behind on that did create a bit of a gas log jam, and it created a log jam in getting the queens out and onto the map. He ended up being supply blocked. If there was a good follow-up actually by the Terran there, say the Terran transition from that 2 racks into a good Hellion push, there's no speed out on the map, there were no queens out on the map, there was no other tech coming up behind that, just because we didn't have the capacity to actually add it on. So it could have actually been quite dangerous. So it's something that you want to look into. Overall, it is a pretty good game, especially for a silver level game. One thing I didn't note, he was hitting these injects very well, even at the end here. With all of this, and really part of the reason all these larvae on the ground is just because he didn't have that hatchery added into his control group. So when he was going there, he wasn't actually building out of that. So there are actually a bunch of larvae just sitting on the ground, and he was never using it. He was injecting that that hatchery, but not actually using that. So make sure that you are picking those up and that you're not leaving things off your hotkeys. But still, I would like to see this hatchery right over here, plus 2 more down here. Good game. I hope that does help, and thanks for watching.